Okay, everybody, here we are, Flea Market Fantasy number 7. This time I got the number right, I think. Right, Mike-DELL?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so this is your co-host, Mike-EL, and as always, I'm joined by...
Mike-EL of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
That's right. And this week, we are reading Mike-DELL's Bronze Age pick. This is the world's greatest comic magazine, The Fantastic Four, number 171.
Yes. This is from June 1976. And the last time I went to a comic book store, Mike-EL, was probably like 5 years ago.
Okay.
And we were just talking before the show that you said Thursdays are your day to go to the comic book shop. What did you buy today, Mike-EL? You want to tell the kids what you bought?
Good question. I bought, what's it called? Batman, the White Knight.
Huh.
Yep, by Sean Murphy. And I bought, oh boy, I should go get my stack. You know what's funny is I bought like a few new comics, but mostly I bought reprints today. Old stuff.
Well, let me ask, Batman the White Knight, is that like when he's in the KKK, or what's that about?
No. It's basically like this, it's a story by an artist named Sean Murphy, who we actually the Syndicate interviewed years ago, and when I met him, I tend to put my foot in my mouth sometimes, you know? And I actually said to him, I said, so Sean Murphy, I mean, you're a great artist. I mean, how does it feel to like that you're not drawing like Batman or something like really popular? And he's like, and his response was, yeah, that'd be like, you know, telling a guitar player, hey, you're really good at guitar. Why aren't you an Aerosmith, you know? So
why do all your current bands suck?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, years go by, and finally... now he is drawing Batman, so it's kind of cool, you know?
And by the way, I just let it slide that he referenced Aerosmith like it was a good band. I just let that
I know. I got to say, it was a dated reference and an incorrect reference, but
yes.
We both get it, right? Yeah. So technically, I should correct. So the one I'm reading right now, it's called Batman Curse of the White Knight. It's a sequel to Batman the White Knight, so... But anyways,
but why is it the White Knight again? Like, what's the...
I think it's just a play on Dark Knight, you know? Like, it's like it's in this weird continuity where in this comic, Joker is called Jack Napier like he is in the movie, right?
Okay.
And so it's not quite the comic book continuity. It's like a mixture of the comic book and the movie continuity. And I think it's just called White Knight to contrast it with Dark Knight. Also, I think it's because in the first story, the Joker kind of becomes the good guy. So I think it's a play on that.
All right, I'm very confused by all this. But this isn't a Batman podcast.
No, not at all.
We're talking Fantastic Four today. But I got on all that because about the last time I was in a comic book shop was about 5 years ago, Mike-EL. And the way to go, if you're going to a comic book shop, just go into the back issues and just pick some interesting, fun stuff. You can get them real cheap. You can get these old issues real cheap because they're beat up, and who cares? You know?
Right.
You're not getting them as an investment. You're getting them because each issue, Mike-EL, is a little time capsule. You open it up,
yes,
and you get the scent of the old comic, that musty scent.
Musty scent.
You get to see all the old advertisements. It's great. So treat yourself. You can spend $5 and get 3 books, and it's great. So this one is one of the ones I picked up because the idea was to pick up some issues I could do for the Flea Market Fantasy column, and I ended up doing like a Black Panther that I bought there.
Okay.
And this was one of the ones that I purchased, and I never got around to doing it for the Flea Market Fantasy. So I'm like, oh, we'll do it now on the show. So yeah, it's Fantastic Four 171. And of course, the reason I picked this issue at the store was it has a spectacular cover, and they fight a monkey.
Yes.
So I'm a big fan of monkeys. So if there's a monkey involved at all, I will sign me up. I'm there for it. And when you're fighting a giant golden monkey, that's a story I want to read.
Okay,
and that's
you're in.
And that's what's going on here in this Fantastic Four 171. Let's talk about the cover, Mike-EL, because I think this cover is spectacular. It's drawn by Jack Kirby. This is after he came back from DC, and he was doing some Fantastic Four covers for a stretch here. But first of all, up at the top left corner, you have the little blurb, still only 25 cents. That's great.
The glory days. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And then you did read the official title, the world's greatest comic magazine, Fantastic Four.
Yep.
And they
sure is. Yep.
And they got the little circles next to the title with the character faces in them. I like that. That's a nice touch.
I love that. Me too.
But the great thing, so it's a great Jack Kirby drawing of the big monkey, and then you got the Thing fighting him, and Mr. Fantastic stretching to save Sue. and Human Torch is blasting him with his little fire beams there. But the great thing about this cover, Mike-O, is we have thought balloons for the Thing.
Right.
If I don't take him out with one punch, Sue's a dead woman.
Well, it's first of all, only he has thought bubbles.
Yes.
And I don't understand why it specifically has to be one punch, but okay.
Well, because he has to hurry. 2 punches, it'll be too late.
Okay.
She'll get crushed.
Okay, he's in a rush.
Yeah, she'll get crushed. Then on the right there, we have a box saying, mightier than Kong, deadlier than Godzilla, this is GORR. GORR, exclamation point. GORR.
And considering how popular GORR is today, I think that statement is true, right? So,
and then at the bottom, we have another little circle, not just another giant gorilla story. Because
you'll gasp at the startling secret of GORR.
GORR, that's in a little box. But yeah, I love this, Mike-El. This is what a comic book cover should be. Action,
I agree.
A fight scene, thought bubbles, blurbs. This is what I want in a comic book cover.
I'm with you on that 100%.
Yeah, because nowadays it's all like stylish stuff and let's make it look slick and clean. No, I want like blurbs and nonsense on my cover. That's what I want.
Yeah, I'm with you. And they're trying to be too serious, right? And
yes.
Violent and dark. No, this is fun stuff. I agree.
Now, Mike-O, I have a feeling you're probably a bigger fan of the Fantastic Four than I am. We talked about this a little bit last week. I said I've always liked them from a distance. I was never really a huge reader of the Fantastic Four. I maybe in my collection I maybe owned like 3 or 4 issues. But I know a while ago, Mike-O, weren't you trying to go back and read all the early Fantastic Fours from Kirby and Stan Lee?
Yes. So I've actually just recently read Fantastic Four number 1 straight through to number 50.
Oh, all right.
By Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Yeah.
There you go.
In other times in my life, I've read the whole John Byrne run from 232 to I think 294 or something. I've read the whole Steve Englehart run that came after that.
Holy hell.
I read the then I read the Carlos Pacheco and Jeff Loeb run. I read the Mark Waid run. And then I know a lot of people really like the John Hickman run. I haven't read that, but I've heard good things about it. So
I think
definitely a big fan.
I think, Mike-El, you're an honorary member. I think it's the Fantastic Five now with Mike-El.
Oh, geez. All right. Yes.
Yeah, I think you're right. How do you feel about the what are they nowadays? They still exist, right? The Fantastic Four, but weren't they like the Freedom Foundation for a while or something?
Well, there was a spin-off called the Freedom Foundation. Yeah.
Okay.
And then unfortunately the FF was canceled for like about a year, but that's more because of politics between Marvel and 20th Century Fox. Like Marvel was pissed off at Fox because they wouldn't give them back the movie rights to FF, so they canceled the book to kind of get back at them, but it didn't really accomplish much. And now they bought Fox, so it doesn't matter now, right?
Yeah, so Fantastic Four, there is an ongoing series right now at this moment, right?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
All right, well,
and we should also note, for those that don't know, this is technically the first official Marvel comic, right? Like this started the official Marvel universe.
Yeah, like superheroes were dead, and then Fantastic Four. What was that, Mike-El? 63?
61.
61?
But DC brought back superheroes first with their Flash and Green Lantern revivals.
Yeah, but for Marvel, the superheroes were dead.
For Marvel, yes. Yeah. For Marvel, absolutely. This was the beginning, yeah.
And then this led to the resurgence of superheroes, and then you had Spider-Man was 63. Is that correct?
Yes,
okay.
That's right.
And then this led to the success of the Fantastic Four. They wanted another superhero team, so hey, let's put together our other heroes and make them the Avengers. And
you got it.
Then you had Daredevil and all those guys. So, yeah, this started it all, though, the Fantastic Four. All right, Mike-El, so this issue, getting into the plot here, when it opens up, it's a great splash page.
It is.
Yeah, you got the Thing punch into somebody. But it's a live model decoy though. It's a robot, Mike-El. It's a robot.
Yeah. Yes.
So they're
a life model decoy, not a live model decoy.
Oh yeah,
right?
life model decoy. Whatever.
That would be like calling the Maple Leafs the Leaves, right?
Yeah. Come on. Who would do that?
Yeah.
Some dope. All right, but yeah. So we get Thing just cracking this robot, and you see Reed in the background, and he's like, "Hey, good job, Ben." And you turn the page. Oh, we should mention the title of this issue is "Death is a Golden Gorilla."
Yes.
And it's written by Roy Thomas and drawn by George Perez, and we'll get into that later.
Right, sure.
But Death is a Golden Gorilla. Or my alternate title would be Death by Monkey. I think.
Okay.
I think Death by Monkey.
That's your suggestion, your write-in suggestion?
If I was editing it, Death by Monkey. So The next page, we still see Thing. He's having quite the Donnybrook here with his robot, and he crushes him. But then the surprising thing for me, Mike-El, the Thing takes his head off.
Yes.
He takes his head off. What's going on here, Mike-El?
Well, I don't know the issues that were leading up to this, but at this point, Ben Grimm had lost his powers, and I believe that I think it was deliberate, right? Like I think that Reed Richards says no. Was it accidental?
He was in a fight with the Hulk.
Right. And he got exposed to gamma radiation.
Yes,
That's right.
The prolonged exposure to the gamma radiation reversed the cosmic ray mutation, and he was Ben Grimm again. He was
which makes no sense at all. But okay,
because he's fought the Hulk a lot,
Right.
So maybe I guess that was it. It was like the buildup of it after fighting him so many times.
Sure. And you know what's funny is I love how these superpowers they have are so unique that even if they lose them, all you have to do is create a Thing suit that, by the way, has a zipper on it.
Yes. Well, his was Reed Richards. This isn't you're not going to the tailor down the street. This is Reed Richards, a scientific genius. He devised an exoskeleton, Mike-El. It's an exoskeleton. And it's collapsible. It's almost like cloth, but it's sturdy and strong like rock when he puts it on. And the zipper's hidden, so you can't even tell it's a zipper.
Okay. So I'll give you that. It's a hidden zipper.
Yeah, it's a hidden zipper. And Reed Richards is saying, all I wanted was to get you as strong as like Power Man. But I think we're up to 90% of your original power thing. We're real close to you being just as good as you were. And I was like, all right, well, that's pretty. But I like this whole idea of the exoskeleton. I didn't know this was a thing, so I like this. This is a nice gimmick.
So to speak.
I like this angle, yeah.
Well, for me, I don't like it only because to me it's like, well, then why do they need their powers if he can just duplicate them all? But whatever, that's fine.
Well, but he can only duplicate 90% of them.
Okay, I gotcha.
So, yeah.
Right.
And I don't know how could you duplicate Johnny Storm? Just set him on fire and hope for the best? I don't know.
I guess so, yeah.
I don't know if that would work. All right, so but the Thing, he's kind of sad. He's like, I got this exoskeleton, but the Thing, Ben Grimm, he's like, I'm not the same though, And you see him walking around, and he's like, all these new kids on the block, you got the Hulk and all these other people coming in, they're stronger than me, and he's like, some little punk like Spider-Man's gonna be stronger than me soon, So he's torn internally, a lot of internal conflict, whether he still fits with the team, maybe they need to replace him. So I like that angle. That's good stuff.
Pathos,
too.
Right?
Yeah, that's good times. So then, he wanders in on Invisible Girl there, Sue Storm.
Right, Sue Storm. Yep.
She's also training Mike-El.
Mm-hmm.
She's practicing her little force fields. Her bio. What does she call them? Bio something or other.
Let me see. Yeah. What does she call them?
Bio-focused force fields. My bio-focused force fields. And then Thing says, "Oh, you wearing bifocals?" She's like, "No."
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Again, because I've been reading all the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby stuff, the dialogue is not nearly as funny. Like I think Stan Lee's dialogue is much better.
Really?
But that's okay. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Because Stan Lee, we mentioned this before, like at least on the LCS show, but Stan Lee, his two best works would probably Spider-Man and Fantastic Four.
Yes, absolutely.
That's where he put his true focus on. Because Stan Lee Daredevil stuff, not so good.
True.
Yeah, don't.
Actually, that's true. You know what? I've read some other Stan Lee stuff, like he did the Human Torch, side stories, and he did whatever. And yeah, it's not. You can tell that he's got his A game and his B game.
Yeah, because he was just doing so much stuff back then. Like
right, exactly.
It couldn't all be great.
Right.
All right. So here, Sue Storm though, she's talking to Ben Grimm, and she's like, she mentions Alicia Masters. I guess that's Ben Grimm's girlfriend at the time, right?
Right. Blind girl.
Yeah, blind girl. She says, Alicia's babysitting Franklin, the Richards kid, and he's like, maybe she's trying to tell you something, Ben. I think she wants a baby. You need to put a baby in her.
Yeah. Put your thing in her.
Yeah. So yeah, she says that, and then she just says, "Well, I guess the showers are free. I gotta go." That's quite the awkward change. And then on the next page, we get a scene change, a literal scene change, Mike-El. Because
they tell us, of course. Yeah.
There's a yellow narrator box, and it literally says "scene change."
Yeah.
So here we get Johnny Storm with his girlfriend, and her name is Frankie Ray.
Right.
Ray. Now, do you know a lot about Frankie Ray?
Well, the only thing I know about Frankie Ray is that she goes on to become the Herald of Galactus Nova.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So that's quite the reveal there. But we don't know that yet, of course. But we also don't know her backstory, and neither does Johnny Storm. Because their relationship is pretty weird here. It seems like she's scared of him being the Human Torch.
Right.
She's
right.
Yeah.
She's trying to get him to stop being a superhero.
Yeah, and I hate that. I hate that.
Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous, and it gets ridiculous as the story unfolds.
But Mike-El, I'm with you. When you're reading it live, you're like, oh well, this is pretty. What's wrong with this broad? Why doesn't Johnny Storm just kick her to the curb? You don't need this in your life, Johnny. Find a supportive lady. You don't need this. Mm-hmm. But she has her reasons, and we'll get into those in a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
But here during the issue, you're like, this Frankie lady, she is terrible. He needs to dump her.
She's a mean girl.
So, well, they're at the zoo, and they're enjoying a nice trip to the zoo, and they start kissing and making out and stuff. And, Mike-El, there's a high-pitched squeal, and what happens?
A UFO flies by.
Yeah, UFO.
And this is, of course, the best part of the story.
Oh, yes.
The UFO lands in the middle of the park, and then Johnny is going to intervene, but then he doesn't.
Yeah.
He stops himself because he's agreed to, stop being a superhero, stop being the Human Torch. And so he's like, let the police handle it. So he's out. So then we cut over to the police, and then we get my favorite part of the whole comic, okay? Can I read this?
Yeah, you tweeted it out the other day.
Yes, I tweeted it out. So the doors of the UFO are opening up, and the cops tell us, the cops are narrating, the door's opening. There's somebody inside there in the shadows. He's coming out. He's a gorilla. And he's golden.
That's exactly. And he's golden.
Oh.
Yes. Now, when we say UFO, it doesn't look like a platter or a disc or something. It's very Jack Kirby-ish.
Totally Jack Kirby-ish.
Yeah, yes. The way they designed it. And my other favorite part is like the UFO, the spaceship, it kind of lands like vertically. It's standing up, and then it just tips over. Boom, falls over.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
So the monkey jumps down at the cop, Mike-El, and then the monkey just starts growing.
Yes.
He just starts growing. And
the great dialogue continues. Not only that, he's even glowing. Holy cow, what a jump. Jerry, watch out. Yeah, do you guys see what I see? He's growing right in front of me. It's not, don't stand there, get back here. Anyway, yeah. Roy Thomas is a fun writer, but his dialogue's terrible. I'm sorry.
Again, this is 1976. This is great stuff.
Okay. I like how you were criticizing Mr. Miracle, but you're defending this. But okay, continue.
Well, let me know when Granny Goodness shows up, and then I'll reconsider things. But so we get the Human Torch. He says, "Hey, I'm sorry, Frankie. I gotta go. There's a giant golden monkey now. I gotta go."
Yep. See ya.
When it was just a UFO, all right, we'll let the cops handle it. But now it's a giant golden monkey. I need to go. So he flames on, and she's all sad. But then he changes his mind, Mike-El.
Yep.
He turns off the flames. He lands, and he says, "Hey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have turned into the Human Torch. I'm sorry."
But he says, if I'm going to give up being a superhero, I've got to start sometime.
Yeah.
So
might as well be now.
And it might as well be now. So, Yep, he's done.
But basically, he just doesn't want any part of that big golden monkey because he knows that monkey would whoop his ass. So he's like, I don't want any of that. So GORR starts going on a rampage through the city, kind of like big monkeys like to do. And but he's going to one place in particular, Mike-El. He sees the Baxter building. And he's like, I got to get over there. So he starts climbing up the building. And he just, they show inside the Baxter building. And now, Mike-El, do you see the part where Sue comes out?
With her little apron and her, what is that, like a spatula? Yeah.
Yeah, she's holding, I think it's a spoon or something, but yeah.
Or a spoon, yeah. Like
she has a little pink apron around her waist. And and Reed is busy on his science. And
he's sciencing.
And she's like, well, I like that. Like we're about to have a nice little lunch, and you're still busy with your sciencing. And he's like, just 5 more minutes. But then Mike-El, GORR he punches through the building, and he just grabs Sue, just like King Kong did with Fay Ray, and he takes her away, and he climbs up to the top of the building there. And so Thing and Reed have to go and save her. And We get it. It's clobbering time, Mike-El. We get it, and it's clobbering time, and think.
Well,
punches.
I also like how. Sorry, I like how the Thing was not in the room. It's kind of awkward storytelling because the Thing was not in the room. So he comes in and he says, "Glad you're back amongst us, pal. But that noise I heard and that hole, what?" And then he figures out what's going on.
Yeah, except he looks out and he sees a big giant monkey. Right. But yeah, they have to punch their way out of the building too because the monkey's blocking their exit with a. What do they call? What do they call the little? Is that a Quinjet? That's like what Shield calls them.
No. It's what do they call it? The Fantastic Car, right?
The Fantastic Car, which is the perfect name for it. So that Thing goes up and punches the monkey right in the jaw. Bang! Oh, I'm sorry, frack. That was the sound effect.
Yep.
Frack.
Yeah.
But the monkey not impressed, and he just kind of pushes the Thing away, and he throws Reed in the Fantastic Car away. So yeah, the monkey's having none of this. But then, Mike-El, we cut to Johnny Storm, and he's hearing about it on the news, and what does he have to do?
Well, unfortunately, once again, he's got to go out and help the FF, right? Because that's his buddies.
Well, it's his sister.
That's his family.
It's a sister.
Yeah. Well, that's his family. Yeah, technically, you're right. Yeah.
And then we see Frankie. She's crying. She's weeping. She said that Johnny left. But there's more going on there, Mike-El. There's more going on.
There's some strange captions, but we'll get to those later because you're going to reveal her backstory, right?
We'll talk about the backstory of Frankie Ray. So then Johnny Storm shows up, and he starts shooting the monkey. But the monkey throws the Thing at Johnny Storm, and he knocks him out. And then Reed has to save him. And,
I like how when Johnny Storm loses his flame, you can see that he has like jeans and shoes on. But then when he's flamed up, it's just all skin tight, right?
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
Because that's the thing. Like when you're designing these characters, you got to think about stuff. Like, well, what if this happens? But yeah, for some reason, his jeans. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how. They you think he'd be naked or something? I don't know. But no,
something.
He's wearing jeans, flame retardant jeans. So Reed saves him, and Invisible Girl. She's like, well, these clowns, they're not going to save me. I better do it myself. So she starts expanding a force field, like real close to her body, and expanding it out until she breaks the monkey's grip. And then she uses like a little invisible parachute to float down. So that's nice.
It doesn't quite make sense, but that's fine. Yeah.
So that's nice. So they regroup. Oh, there's something here. Sue's telling Reed, but I still wouldn't mind if you held me just a little.
Yeah, I know. Well, but before that, because she says the day I'm good for nothing but a hostage is the day I hang up my leotards.
Yeah.
But I still wouldn't mind much if you held me just a little.
Just a little.
That's the lead up.
Because she's still a girl.
Yeah, that's what Roy the Boy's trying to say there. Yep.
But the FF regroup and they go back at the monkey and they start to get the edge on the monkey, because the Thing like kicks him in the face and
thuck. Yep.
Yeah, thuck. And Johnny's shooting him with his beams, but here the big hero here though is Invisible Girl again. She puts a force field around the monkey, and she's basically just choking him out.
Yep.
Cutting off his oxygen. So the monkey starts to shrink, and then he passes out. And
and this is great because then Ben Grimm runs down the stairs and manages to defy the speed of what is it? Is that acceleration? What is that called? I don't even know what it's called.
Let's go with that.
But he somehow makes it to the bottom of the back building before the monkey gets there through falling, and he catches the monkey.
Well, in fairness, Johnny Storm did grab the monkey, and
slow him down.
Yeah,
okay,
so maybe he slowed him down enough that he could get there, but he couldn't hold him entirely. But I like how his hands, he flames off just the hands. So he can grab
that's
him.
Cool.
And then, but he can't hold him, so the monkey does fall, and the Thing's down there, and he catches him. Now, let me ask you this, Mike-El.
Okay.
What do you think would feel better, falling off the top of a building and landing on a cement street, or a bunch of orange rocks?
a bunch of orange rocks with a zipper sticking out of them. That's what I want to know. What's worse?
So
right?
I don't know if the monkey would survive this fall either way, but he does because he's a giant monkey, and they're strong, they're resilient. So they capture the monkey, they take him back to the Baxter Building, and they strap him up into this contraption they had for the Hulk, to hold the Hulk. So
yes.
It's kind of like he's just his hands are pinned and his legs are pinned. Mm-hmm. But he's standing straight up, so It's a weird. It's almost like he's at a carnival and they're throwing knives at him.
Sure,
did you see that? So they start thinking what they're going to do with this monkey, and then the monkey starts to talk, Mike-El.
Yes. and then Reed Richards says the gorilla talked.
Not only is he a giant golden monkey from outer space, but this giant golden monkey from outer space can talk, and he can speak English. That's the other thing.
Yes, that's the third thing. And what's the fourth thing? He is
well, he's a
herald of Galactus.
Well, no. He's not a herald of Galactus.
Oh, he's not a herald.
No.
Oh, am I reading too much into that?
Yes, he says. Okay. Wait, I'm having trouble reading here. But when my whole mission, for which I came nearly 200 million miles, was to find someone like you and enlist your aid. For it's too late against Galactus.
Oh, right. So technically he's not a herald. You're right. Okay.
And,
he wants to fight Galactus.
And the ink on this copy is very faint. So that's why I'm having
okay. Well, that's what you get for, what was it, $1 something?
Yeah, I paid like $1 for it. So the ink is very faint and it's tough to read. But, yeah, he came all the way to Earth to get the Fantastic Four's help in fighting Galactus.
Okay.
So what's going on here? Well, yeah, there's some stuff we got to talk about here. First of all, yeah, this is GORR's first appearance.
Okay.
Of course, in Marvel Comics. Because I thought maybe this is one of those monsters that Kirby created back in the day.
From the 50s,
yeah.
Sure, yeah.
But no, this is GORR's first appearance. And what's going on here, Mike-El, is actually the High Evolutionary. You know that guy.
Yes.
What was his deal? He was just like an Earth scientist who discovered like gene manipulation and stuff, and then...
and then he created like a race of kind of what were they called? They were half animal, half man, but I don't remember what they were called. They weren't Animal.
We're gonna call them Manimals, just because that was
sure.
That was a great TV show. Manimal. All right, and he also, Mike-El, created something called the Counter Earth.
Yes. Didn't it rotate around the sun on the opposite side of our solar system?
I think he synced it 1 second behind Earth time. So it was like just out of dimension, so we couldn't perceive it or something. But it was basically his idea of creating an idyllic paradise, everything the Earth should be, with no corruption, no evil. But then he had one of his little minions, I think Monkey Man or something. He what do I want to say? He fucked things up. Let's put it that way. He just fucked things up. So he let there be corruption on Counter Earth. So it caused a big thing with High Evolutionary. But the point in this story is that Counter Earth is out there and Galactus finds it. And Galactus wants to eat it. So High Evolutionary is like, oh shit, I need some help again to fight Galactus. So he genetically modifies a monkey to create GORR, and then he sends GORR on a mission to Earth to get the Fantastic Four and bring them to Counter Earth.
Gotcha.
So that's what this is all about. And GORR, to his credit, he didn't mean to flip out when he came here to Earth. Like he went on, he's kind of going nuts there for a little bit. But the problem was, Mike-El, when he got into the Earth's atmosphere, it made him grow. And he started to panic. He didn't know what was going on. He's like, what's happening? I'm so big. What's going on? And so he kind of was freaking out a little bit. Yeah. So
panic attack.
Yeah. So GORR isn't a bad monkey. He's a good monkey. He's a good monkey. Yeah. So there you go.
Oh, and by the way, I found out that High Evolutionary's dudes are called the New Men.
Yeah, I like Manimals better.
Okay.
Manimals. All right.
I watched Manimal too, and I also watched Automan. Remember Automan?
Vaguely, yeah. Vaguely.
It was like his Tron ripoff.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, for those who don't remember Manimal, just the guy who turned into animals. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk Frankie Ray. All right.
Frankie Ray. What's the backstory there?
The Human Torch's girlfriend. Well, her stepfather and guardian, because her mother passed away sadly. His name is Phineas T. Horton. Now,
which is the creator of the original Human Torch?
Yes. Because the original Human Torch was an android, or as I like to say, a robot. And he created him. And so Horton is outraged when he sees Johnny Storm. Like, the Fantastic Four Human Torch. He's like, hey, I created the Human Torch way before, but the government shut me down, and they took my robot. So he's like, I'm going to go get my robot back. So when he wants to break into this government warehouse and get his robot, and when you do that, Mike-El, the thing you want to do is take your little daughter with you.
Okay, that's what you want to do.
You want to make sure she's with you, because you can't let her out of your sight, so you take her when you commit crimes. So when he in the process of breaking into this warehouse, there's an accident, and the little girl Frankie Ray, who at the time is like, I don't know, 10 or something, she gets doused in chemicals.
Okay.
And these chemicals are, I guess, the same chemicals that made their android light up on fire or whatever. So she survives, but it gives her the power to turn into the Human Torch. Like, she can burst into flames.
Okay.
At any second. But the dad there, I guess the Human Torch robot, Mike-El, back in the day was ostracized from society. Everyone was scared of him and stuff. So this Phineas T. Horton, he doesn't want his little daughter to go through that. So he hypnotizes her. And he hypnotizes her. He does a few things here. One, he hypnotizes her to let her forget that she has this power. Two, he makes her afraid of fire. So she's scared of fire.
Okay.
Which is why she was freaking out every time Johnny Storm turned into the Human Torch. Because she was hypnotized to fear fire. And the third thing he does, Mike-El, is he designs a transparent suit that encases her body. And it suppresses her powers. And he also hypnotizes her so she's not even aware that the suit exists.
Okay.
Now this raises a lot of questions.
It sure does. Yeah.
But a couple issues from now, Johnny Storm finds out about this suit, and I think we can figure out how.
Oh boy. Yep.
But she still doesn't know. Like, she doesn't know that she's wearing this transparent suit to suppress her powers. She doesn't know.
Okay, beyond that, how can she eat or go to the bathroom?
Yes, that's what I don't understand.
Okay.
But
whatever.
So this is all going on. So once you understand all this, it makes sense then what's going on with Frankie in this story.
Of course.
Because she's been programmed to hate fire, to fear fire, and yet she still finds herself drawn to Johnny Storm for some reason. And because subconsciously, he's another Human Torch, just like she is.
Okay.
They're like, but then later, like you said, Mike-El, Galactus is coming to Earth, and she does the old Silver Surfer bit where she says, well, I'll just serve as your herald. And she becomes Nova.
Okay. See, I didn't understand how that all connected, but now I do.
Yeah, so I like that backstory for Frankie Ray.
For sure.
And I am very impressed that you knew the name of the guy who created the first Human Torch robot.
I'm impressed too, because like I was saying the other day, I have certain cousins whose names I can't remember. So
Phineas T. Horton, and you knew it right away. Bang.
Yep.
That's pretty good. All right. So there you go.
I'm sure that any of the ladies listening right now, they're impressed as well.
They're swooning as we speak.
Yep.
All right. So there you go. That's the issue. The Fantastic Four. That's the entire plot. That's your Frankie Ray. That's your GORR info. So let's get into the writer here, Mike-El. It's Roy Thomas.
Yes.
Roy Thomas. He was born in 1940, and he has an interesting story here. Get a load of this story, first of all. Okay, but he made his own comics as a kid, so he always loved comics.
Okay.
And he's from Missouri, I guess. And after he graduated college, he was a high school English teacher, but he still loved comics, and he was a frequent contributor to the letters pages. He would always write in letters to comics. And he actually had letters printed in Fantastic Four 15 and 22.
Really?
And then years later, he's writing the Fantastic Four. That's pretty spectacular.
It's amazing, yeah.
But Thomas was also he was the editor of Alter Ego, which was a comics fanzine at the time.
Yep.
So a lot of fanboys, and he was like the head fanboy. And this was like when he was in his early 20s, 23, 24. So in 1965, Thomas moved from Missouri to New York City to take a job with DC as an assistant editor to Mort Weisinger, I think is his name. And he was the editor of Superman at the time. And the way Thomas got this job was he had just exchanged like a letter or two with this Mort Weisinger, and he didn't even ask for a job or anything. And Mort says, hey, why don't you come in and be my assistant editor? So Thomas is like, all right. So he moves to New York City. It's a trial basis. So he's working the first week with Mort, and is that his name? Yeah, Mort. And then he's working the second week with him. And in that second week, he's like, wow, this Mort guy's terrible. He's just an awful person.
Everyone thought
so. He said he came back to his little apartment there, his little hotel room or wherever he was staying the one night, and he was just so sad and miserable that he sat down and he penned a letter to Stan Lee. And he just said to Stan Lee, I really admire your work, and let me know if I can ever buy you a drink sometime. And he sent a letter. He mailed the letter to Stan Lee. Stan Lee got the letter a couple of days later. Stan Lee calls him up on the phone.
Amazing.
And Stan Lee says, I guess Stan Lee remembered him as the editor of Alter Ego.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he says, well, what are you doing? Why don't you come into Marvel? We'll give you the writing test if you want to get the writing test here at Marvel. So Roy Thomas goes into Marvel. He takes the writing test. And back then, they were doing a writing test. They would give you 4 pages of art with the balloons and everything, but no dialogue. And you filled in the dialogue.
Really?
And that was the writing test. So he did that. Lee liked it and said, all right, I'll give you a job. And so he said, all right, I'm with you because that Mort guy is a dick. So he goes, so he told Mort he'd give him indefinite notice until I'll stay with you until, you got someone to replace me. And Mort flipped out on him and said, no, you just get the hell out of here.
Really? Jeez,
so then he went and joined Marvel. But Mike-El, this all happened in a span of 8 days.
Oh, it's incredible.
What is it? Like, it's so weird. You hear these stories about how these guys get started in comics. They're all like 19, 20 in their early 20s.
I know. And
just these random occurrences like, they just send a guy a letter. All right, you want a job? Sure, I'll take a job as a writer at Marvel. What? It's so strange. And more innocent time back then in the 60s, And
it's funny because this changed history because Roy Thomas had, he's been working comics for 50 years now. It's just crazy,
Yeah, and we go through his career here. You'll see how important this was. So he started out as a staff writer, but he said really that just meant he was like a gopher and he was fact checking. He was doing a bunch of other stuff, but he proofreading, doing all that stuff more than he was writing. So he eventually got moved to being an assistant editor. His first actual writing jobs. His first superhero work was he was doing romance comics. His first superhero work was on an Iron Man story in Tales of Suspense 73 in 1966. Then he took over the regular writing gig of Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos in 1966. Right. He did that from issues 29 to 41. And at the same time, he did Uncanny X-Men issues 20 to 43. And this was when the X-Men, they weren't popular.
No.
But during this run, I think he worked with Neil Adams on this run of.
Actually, I think Neil Adams came on a little bit later. I think he came on around number 50, didn't he?
I don't know. I think they said they worked together a little bit. So.
Oh, they did, but I think Roy Thomas. I think he either continued on or he came back because.
Oh, okay.
His run with Neil Adams was only 5 or 6 issues long. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I think he did come back to X-Men because I think he was writing it when it ended.
Right. That's right. Right up to 66. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because X-Men, there was a time when it wasn't that popular, and they actually canceled it and then brought it back. All right, so then in December of '66, he took over the Avengers with issue 35, and he was the regular writer until issue 104 in 1972. So that's quite the run,
right,
on the Avengers. And I guess that's a very memorable run for the Avengers. A lot of stuff happened.
Yeah, absolutely, the classic run with. I think he might have started with Don Heck, but then it was John Buscema after that on art.
And then in 1972, when Lee became Marvel's publisher, Thomas took over as editor-in-chief.
Yes.
So think of that. Just a kid who sent Stan Lee a letter one night because he was so sad working at DC for that other guy. Stan Lee, just in response, he becomes the writer of the Avengers and then eventually editor-in-chief.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It's insane. So he was editor-in-chief for 2 years until 1974. Then Len Wein took over. Thomas left Marvel for DC in '81 after disputes with then editor-in-chief Jim Shooter. Yep. And at DC, he worked on Green Lantern, Batman, Wonder Woman, and the Justice League. But he's probably most famous for a 6-year run writing All-Star Squadron, issues 1 to 67.
Are you familiar with this comic, Mike-DELL?
Yeah, here's a little secret, Mike. I wanted to keep this as a secret. I wanted to spring it on you at some point in the run of Flea Market Fantasy. But I will be choosing an All-Star Squadron issue.
Nice.
At some point.
Because I have many original issues of All-Star Squadron.
When I was a little kid, I liked the All-Star Squadron. Yeah.
Great.
It was probably my favorite DC title ever, the All-Star Squadron.
It's great, yeah.
All right. Because for those who don't know, it was like the Golden Age heroes brought back.
Yeah, it was basically he went back and took all the Golden Age superheroes and kind of pretended that in the 1940s they were in a team together called All-Star Squadron, even though they actually weren't. But it was awesome.
Yeah, it's like a Justice League for the old Golden Age heroes. It was amazing. All right, so he buried the hatchet with Jim Shooter, and he returned to Marvel in '86. He did a lot of film, TV, and classic literature adaptations. He was also the ghostwriter for Stan Lee on the Spider-Man newspaper strip from 2000 until it ended just this year. Back in.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was.
That must have been a secret because I had no idea.
Yeah, he was the ghostwriter.
Wow.
And here's some of the characters that he created or co-created: Wolverine, Vision, Carol Danvers, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Ultron, Man-Thing, Valkyrie, Ghost Rider, and Brother Voodoo.
Amazing.
Lord help me, I love the Brother Voodoo.
Oh yeah, me too. He's cool.
Jacob Drum. Love him. All right. Thomas was inducted into the Will Eisner Comic Book Hall of Fame in 2011. And here's a little trivia there about Roy Thomas. He appeared as a prison inmate in Season 3 episode of Daredevil on Netflix.
Really? I didn't know that.
I'm guessing it was that episode where they had that big, long, continuous shot of that prison riot.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing Roy Thomas, he probably started the riot, if I know anything.
Yeah, there you go.
So you got to look at him. But yeah, he's in there somewhere if you can find him. All right, so that's Roy Thomas, one of the icons of comic book writing, if you consider his entire career and all that he did. So, Mike-El, how'd you feel about the writing in this issue?
Oh, okay, here's the thing, okay? Roy Thomas, I've always respected him because of his reputation, because of what he's done.
Yeah.
But I've slowly realized I don't really like his writing. Like, I don't think he's good. Like, if you think about this issue, all it is, what is it, 22 pages? It's like or 19 pages. It's a 19-page kind of misunderstanding, which is just an excuse to get to the next stage, which is, I mean, you could argue that a lot of stories are that.
Yeah, it's a comic book. That's what you want. You want an episodic story to lead you to the next, to the next, to the next. Yeah, that's not a criticism, Michael. That's the way you're supposed to do it.
No, but it's just the I don't know. It seems like Roy Thomas basically said, okay, I want to do a King Kong story, but I'm going to disguise my King Kong story as an alien King Kong, so that the FF can fight him, so then I can lead it into the Galactus story. I don't know. It just seems very forced.
You can't tell that whole Galactus story in one issue, Mike-El. It's an arc. Like, I don't understand that as a criticism, that you're only telling one part of it. Yes, it's an issue. It's an issue, Mike-El.
And also, like, all the dialogue examples we gave, and there's plenty more.
Yeah, the dialogue's corny. Yeah, that's definitely not there. But here's what I like. I like the fact that this is a smaller part of a larger arc, that it's getting it, because now I want to read the next issue. I want to hear Galactus. This monkey is somehow tied into Galactus. I want to read what's going on next. So you hook them for the next issue. But I mentioned the internal conflict with the Thing earlier, but he's got a lot of internal conflict in this issue with the Thing, with Johnny Storm, with Frankie Ray. Even if you take a step back and you add the conflict for yourself, even with GORR, because that poor little monkey's groaning, he doesn't know why.
Okay, I'll give you that.
But that's good stuff. When you're doing characters, you want internal and external conflict. So he gives them, because the Thing, I really like the fact that the Thing feel, hey, maybe I'm not worthy to be on the team anymore. You know, maybe I'm just not good enough.
He's definitely a good successor to Stan Lee. You know, because he did take over FF and Spidey from Stan Lee, so he definitely learned. You know, he learned all of Stan's tricks. I just don't think he's as good.
Yeah, like the dialogue and stuff, not so good. But the structure and the plotting, I was a big fan of. I liked it.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I liked it. Because and listen to you, just diminishing monkey stories. You're like, oh, just another monkey story. Like that's a bad thing. Good Lord, Mike-El. What the hell? It's a monkey story.
I did enjoy it, though. Don't get me wrong. I did enjoy reading it. It's just that as I was enjoying reading, I was also understanding that it had many weaknesses.
But I just think the Galactus reveal at the end is dynamite. That's awesome.
I guess I'd have to see how it plays out and see how organically everything fits together. You know,
it's Galactus. It's great.
Okay.
Anytime you have Galactus, it's amazing. All right, so let's get into the art. There's actually two artists here, Mike-El. Two artists.
Yes, that's true.
Rich Buckler drew the first 3 pages. And
yes.
Buckler was born in 1949. He sadly died in 2017. Beginning in September 1973, Buckler drew the first 3 issues of Don McGregor's classic Black Panther story and Jungle Action, issues 6 to 8, The Rage of the Panther, right? Was that what it was called?
That's right.
Yeah. Have you ever read that?
Actually, I did. I read those issues, and I believe I read up until Gil Kane's issue, and I plan to get back to it, but I just haven't yet.
Yeah, I read a couple of them. I got to read the whole thing, yeah.
It's considered like the first really long-form comic book, almost like the precursor to the graphic novel, I think. Because it's one continuous story for like 2 years or something.
In 1974, Buckler took over the regular artist on Fantastic Four, and he lasted 2 years. And during this time, Buckler hired a young George Perez as his art assistant.
Ah, okay, I didn't know that.
Now, keep in mind, we're saying that Buckler hired a young George Perez as art assistant. At this time, Buckler's only 25. So, wow, okay. Yeah, at least everyone doing Marvel back then was so young. They're so young. Mm-hmm. But he was a grizzled vet at 25. Buckler filled in on various titles over the years, probably Spectacular Spider-Man being his biggest contribution here to Marvel, where he did 10 issues and 2 annuals.
Okay.
But yeah, he didn't really have any other lengthy runs on anything. His notable work at DC included the first 5 issues of All-Star Squadron with Roy Thomas.
Forgot about that.
And he did 8 issues of Justice League and 19 issues of A World's Finest Comics, where he drew stories with Hawkman, Batman, and Superman. So that's the Rich Buckler. So that brings us to George Perez.
Absolutely, one of my favorite artists.
Now, I think George Perez, by any estimation, would be considered probably one of the top 10 comic book artists of all time. I don't know, top 20?
I think so. Yeah, it definitely as far as popularity, for sure. Absolutely.
He's one of the best. So he started. He was born in 1954 in New York City. He became Buckler's art assistant in 1973 at the age of 19.
Wow.
And his first work was on Astonishing Tales 25 in 1974. In 1975, Perez came to prominence when drawing the Avengers and the Fantastic Four.
Wow, okay.
He did them both from 75 to 80. All told, he did 26 issues and 2 annuals for the Avengers and 15 issues and 2 annuals for the Fantastic Four. In 1980, Perez moved to DC and drew Justice League of America and the New Teen Titans. And that's probably what made him famous, the New Teen Titans, right?
Right, yes. And
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Crisis.
Now, as a Marvel kid, I have a sketchy knowledge of Crisis on Infinite Earths. So why don't you explain it?
Really quickly, DC used to have multiple Earths to explain some of their continuity glitches. And to make a long story
so they fuck up.
Right?
So like, let's just create another Earth.
Basically, yeah. And so to make a long story short, it started out with Earth 1, Earth 2, then they had Earth 3 for the Crime Syndicate, which were evil versions of the Justice League. Then every time they'd buy a company, they would say, these characters are on Earth 6, and these characters are on Earth 4, and these characters are on Earth S. And then over the years they would have crises, like the Crisis on Earth 1, Crisis on Earth 2, Crisis on Earth C, whatever. And so when it got to 1985, they decided we want to clean up our continuity and make it easier to understand. So we're just going to have a story called Crisis on Infinite Earths. And at the end of the story, they merged all the Earths together into one.
Really?
And basically sort of restarted their continuity over from scratch for some characters, like Superman and Wonder Woman started over from scratch, but Batman and Green Lantern and the Flash, their continuity continued. Huh. So it became very confusing because they didn't have a clean slate. So it got really messy. And then basically that continuity was maintained until 2011 when DC did the New 52 reboot.
Now how did the fans react to all this? As a DC fan, were they?
I think, I was not reading DC at the time, but from what I gather, there was a lot of old-time fans that hated it, that stopped reading around that time. And then there was but it also brought in a lot of new fans. And because at the time, DC, if you go late 70s, early 80s, DC's sales were nowhere near Marvel sales, okay? Marvel had overtaken them in the late 60s, early 70s. And for years, the only DC comics that sold well were stuff like maybe Superman, maybe Batman. But by the time you got to the early 80s, the only comics that were selling well were New Teen Titans and Legion of Superheroes. That was it. Even Batman and Superman, if you look at the top 100, they're barely in the top 100.
Wow.
Yeah, so Crisis combined with Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller, that's what brought people back to DC, basically. And they all happened in 1985, 86, so all around the same time.
Perez also did something called War of the Gods, another DC big event, but he didn't finish it, I guess.
Because he was drawing that at the exact same time he was doing Infinity Gauntlet.
Yes, and he didn't finish either of them.
No.
So
he overcommitted, unfortunately, because they were both cool, but he didn't finish either one of them.
Yeah, so there you go. There's Perez. All right, so the art or anything else you want to say about George Perez? Any other?
I don't know. I'll just say that this art is almost unrecognizable as Perez art, right? Like you would never guess that this was him, but by the time he got to New Teen Titans, especially like late, like when it was the New Teen Titans Baxter series, when they kind of started the second run, that and Crisis I think is his peak. Like just some of the nicest looking and most detailed and it's experimental storytelling, and he's just a great comic artist. He's really dedicated.
Yeah, here he's 21, 22. He's just a kid.
Right.
This is some of his first work he ever did. So, by the time he's 25 or whatever, when he's doing New Teen Titans, he finds his stride. But here he's just finding his way. And I would say I actually like Rich Buckler's stuff. The first 3 pages I loved because it was it was very like Kirby, very Marvel.
Right.
Just the dynamic poses, the perspectives, the panel compositions, very old school Marvel superhero stuff. Great stuff. And then Perez, you could see like things were well drawn, but very static, very up and down.
Good point. Yeah.
The same perspective on pretty much every panel, like the same viewpoint. Yeah. So, but Buckler's stuff was better here, but then Perez would shine as he gets older. But yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. He'd eclipse him.
Yeah. But overall, this issue, Mike-El, I enjoyed it quite a bit because we had a monkey. We had fights. We had fights. We had fights involving a monkey. And you get a mention of Galactus there at the end, the little twist. Oh, it's Galactus. Oh my goodness. So I really enjoyed it. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed it.
Whew. Okay, you know what? I did really enjoy this. I'll give it a 6 out of 10, only because I definitely am going to read more of these. Like, I plan to go and read this entire run by Roy Thomas, like this whole era. Because, like I said, I'm definitely going to go up to 102, because that's when Lee and Kirby stopped. But I'm going to go beyond that, too, because this is fun stuff. So
yeah, I would actually be interested in reading the next issue to see what happened with Galactus.
Sure, me too. Yeah, me too.
I want to see what happens there. And by the way, GORR, I guess he really doesn't have much else to do in Marvel after this. Like this is pretty much.
Oh, okay. So he didn't catch on.
No, I think he's involved in one other story for a little bit, but where he got captured or something. But this is basically his high water mark in the comic books.
Okay. So. He peaked early. Okay.
Yes. So God bless GORR, though. A giant golden monkey. All right, Mike-El. So next week it's your pick, and please, I hope to God it's a monkey comic. Is there a monkey?
Unfortunately, no, it's not. But it is, because of the theme, it is tied into the Halloween theme. Okay.
Oh, it's a Halloween theme?
Well, it's it's October, so I figured I'd get as close to a Halloween theme as possible. So I'm picking Ghost Rider.
Oh.
The original not the original, because there's like 3 before this, but the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider.
Yeah, there's like 70 Ghost Riders.
Yeah, exactly. So this is Ghost Rider number 77 from February 1983, okay?
Wow, 83.
Yep, and it's written by J.M. DeMatteis, or DeMatteis, however you pronounce it, and penciled by Bob Budiansky, who's famous for creating the personalities and names of all the Transformers.
Oh, you love the Transformers.
That's right.
You love the Transformers. So this was before, I'm trying to think what year, because they didn't like reboot Ghost Rider until later in the 80s, right? When they gave him like the spikes on his leather jacket.
That was, I believe, was actually 90, okay. That it was rebooted by Howard Mackey and Javier Salters and Mark Teixeira.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that last
one. And that was Danny Ketch. Yeah, so this is Johnny Blaze, the classic Ghost Rider.
Is this Johnny Blaze? Is he like the stunt rider guy?
That's right. Okay. Absolutely.
All right. So next week, Ghost Rider.
You got
what
it.
issue? 77? Is that what you said?
77, yep.
All right. So next week. Can't wait.
And I'll just give you a little preview. On the cover it says, "Revealed at last, the secret origin of the demon who dwells within Johnny Blaze." So
now,
we're in for it.
I don't want you to ruin it if you know, but is there any chance that demon was a monkey?
There's no chance. I'm sorry. That's all I'll say.
That sucks.
All right. Okay, so yeah, I guess we'll see everybody again next Tuesday and every Tuesday until the end of time. This has been your co-host, Mike-EL, as usual, joined by...
Mike-DELL.
Yep, and this is Flea Market Fantasy. Please write to us. Let us know what you think of our reviews. Let us know what you think of the comic books. Share these anywhere you can. Tell all your pals about it. Flea Market Fantasy, spotlighting a different Bronze Age comic book every week. All right, see you next time.